On and all, this is set number 2 for Shore Alba, and specifically for those of you who are still learning the tunes. For those of you not in this pipe band, these are not detailed lessons on these tunes. We're just helping people through them who all should have heard them before, but may need a couple of tips along the way. So back to the tunes themselves. They're all in 6/8 time, and the settings are all taken from the Scots Guards Book of Standard Settings, volume number 1. The first tune, All the Blue Bonnets Are Over the Border, can be found on page 4. Second tune, Bonny Dundee, can be found on page 18. And the final tune, the Atholl Highlanders, can be found on page 86. You will also note that there are 6 parts in the Atholl Highlanders. It's relatively unusual for bands to be playing the 6 parts, but we will be playing for a lot of street marches and we can use as much material as we can get. So I make no apologies for including the 6 parts. Let's start and have a look at All the Blue Bonnets Are Over the Border, a very old tune, and starts off with a terluith. Please hold on to the low A before the terluith and make a correct terluith. You'll see in bar number 2 we encounter a grip between the 2 high A's, the same there. It's a long high A, then a complete grip down to low G and back to high A again. Several versions of this tune. It doesn't really deviate too much from version to version. Really in the third part we go from closed to open strikes, and that's really about it. So the first part, we've already talked about the terluiths and the grips between high A. Let's move along to bar number 7 in this part. We'll see that we move from a C through a grip to E. Make sure that you perform a correct grip, and when you're coming from the low G back up to the E again, make sure that you raise the E and the A fingers at the same time in order to avoid a little bit catching if you raise the A finger first. So that part again. Finish it with a proper low G grace note back up to the low A. Make use of the long notes in these 6/8. It's really what makes the tune. We have quite a few tachums coming in here in part 2. That's really the main thing to watch. Make sure you get the tachum. Don't cut the first note of the tachum or too much. Make sure you can hear both notes and both grace notes. G grace note followed by a D grace note. Part 3, which differs from the way that I've really developed into playing over the years, one of these things, if you don't go back to the music now and again, you may well develop mistakes. I usually put heavy D strikes in this part. In the music it's light D strikes, and as you're going to be following the music, let's stick to the light D strikes. That is the D finger striking off the chanter only, as opposed to the heavy strike with the 3 fingers. So that's a light D strike in this tune. The other thing you'll notice, I'll play the part in full, that is to say I'll repeat it, is that we have to go back into the part. Now you'll see that the first movement in part 3 is a throw on D. Now we can't do that when we return, so it's another strike, and we'll show you just now what we mean. And also take your time in bar 7 of this part. You've got a D doubling there, make sure it's nice and open, and coming from the B to the C at the end of the bar with that grip. Finally, to part 4, we come from a D at the end of part 3 there, so again it's a G grace note D strike to begin the part. The high A's are all long, hang on to these high A's, relax up there, make the most of the long note. Have a look at bar number 2. We come from high G to F, and that's with a back or a high A grace note. Try and get that in, it makes all the difference. So that part one more time. You'll hear those of us who play small pipes in a similar group to this playing this tune all the time, and the small pipers would probably claim it as their own. That's fair enough. It's certainly a very, very old tune. Moving on to Bonny Dundee. Now, this is a very, very popular tune, and it's one of these tunes which is very popular, just like Green Hills. You'll hear it all the time. Because you hear it all the time, it does not mean that this is actually a simple tune. The thing is full of grips, terluiths, movements from C to E. So we've got to get the grips right, we've got to get the terluiths right, and it's a bit of a beast of a tune for crossing noises. So try and avoid these crossing noises as well. Finally, coming from All the Blue Bonnets Are Over the Border. We don't play the introductory notes you can see there, the anacrusis, that's to say the two notes of C and D that are at the start of the tune. The first time through, coming from All the Blue Bonnets Are Over the Border, we come straight from the last note in Blue Bonnets to the E in bar 1 of Bonny Dundee. Again, that's... So we've already covered the terluiths and the grips in this tune. It's essential that we get them in. If you have a look at bar 3, that's actually bar 3 and bar 7 in part 1 here. That's where the crossing noises are liable to come in if you're prone to them. Take your time, don't move from the C up to the E too quickly, don't snatch it, don't rush that movement and hope that you won't cross. Make the movement quite big, give the C just that little more than is shown, and you control your fingers rather than closing your eyes and hoping for the best. Okay, so best of luck with that. Part 2 is terluith after terluith after terluith. Really much the same thing as we've encountered. In bar 7 of part 2, again you have the C to E potential crossing noise area there, so be careful with it. You've got some nice long notes in there as well. Don't come off them too early. Just let me have a look at part 1 again. Yep, so at the end of the first time through part 1, if you remember, we did not use the introductory notes coming from All the Blue Bonnets into Bonny Dundee, but on the repeat of part 1 we do use these joining notes. So we'll leave Bonny Dundee, probably the trickiest tune out of the 3 here. It's the two-parter. You'd think it would be simple, but for potential errors, I would say definitely the trickiest tune. So moving from Bonny Dundee into the Atholl Highlanders, we didn't use the introductory notes to get to Bonny Dundee. We do use the introductory notes to get to Atholl Highlanders. So I'll show you how that's going to be done, and I'll play the first part for you as well. Okay, so the first note in bar 1 there is a very, very long note, and also hold the E in the triplet there as well. You'll see that there's a doubling on the E, and we move through a joining note of C and a D grace note down to low A. Try and get that D grace note in. In some versions you'll see a G grace note in the C as well. I think that's unnecessary. I'm not going to say it's too much, but we certainly don't need it. So if you want to play it, no harm done for our purposes, but I would suggest just leaving it if you're just learning it. Other points to note in this part, and right the way through the tune, if we move part 1, bar number 7, we'll see that the first note is a C. In some versions, usually beginner versions, that note will be an E, I think. I much prefer the C, and I think it actually should be a C. So please use the C in. And also be careful moving from the C up to high A that you don't cross on the way up. Make sure that the high A is up before the C comes down. That's the first part. The next part, I actually find that I like this part the most out of the whole tune. It really says the Atholl Highlanders to me, but again, it's a minefield for crossing noises, and it can just be crossing noise after crossing noise after crossing noise. We are coming from a G grace note to A. The first potential for crossing is the D grace note to C. If we close the A down before we bring the D up, we get a low G crossing noise. Then, of course, we come to the classic C up to E, where there's another potential. So in actual fact, there's the potential to cross all the way through this part. The remedy to it is to take your time. Just slow everything down. Big movements to avoid crossings. Please don't lose the long notes. And control your fingers again rather than shutting your eyes and hoping for the best. So the second part. Okay, so it's a lovely part, so please try and make the best of it. Moving on quickly to part 3, I'm going to play the full part for you because we have a second time in here, which you can see in the music. The main thing in here, coming off the high A grip back up to E, make sure it's a proper E, and following on, proper grip, sorry. Following on from that, you have a long E, so make the use of that long note and produce a nice open E doubling so that we can hear both elements of the doubling there. I think that's really it for this part, so I'll play the full thing for you. Now to the last part. For the tachums, if people have problems with tachums, then this part is a bit of a pest. If you don't, then no problems at all. Look on it as a tackham exercise. Don't make your first note in the tackham too quick. Other than that, try and avoid crossing noises. So we have, looking at that tackham itself, it's a G grace note on C, a D grace note on A, and coming back to C with a D grace note. It follows that pattern all the way. G, D, and D. Nothing more to say on that. I'd really be labouring that if I did. Just be very careful with these tackhams. Try and get them more or less perfect. Now, to the big surprise in most cases. We have the fifth part. I really like these. I get the feeling they're probably an addition at some point, but when a band plays this, it's great watching pipers' faces because they've never heard these before. So let's play them, and they're really easy. E doubling followed by a C doubling in bar 1, and that really makes the tune. Nice open E doubling and a long E, a nice open C doubling and a long C. Whatever you do, they must be the same. So a nice open. Nice balanced doublings there. Finally, G grace note to A and a D grace note up to C here. You'll see in the music, if you're using SG1, it's shown as an E doubling. That's a misprint. So G grace note to A, D grace note to C, and up to E. Doubling on E and yet another tackham. It's a bit like the Pibroch O'Donnell do this last part, but I think it rounds it off quite well. And finally, when you come to put this together in the set, that is to say, when we're actually playing this marching, if we move back into All the Blue Bonnets Are Over the Border, we will use the introductory E to go back in there. I think it's the natural thing to do, and it's also a sort of wake-up call for everyone to let them know that we're repeating the set. So it should go... Okay, now that's a long set, but if you look at it, it's 3 tunes and a 6-parter, but that only equates to 3 4-parted 6/8s, which the centre bands do at the Worlds all the time, much to their enjoyment, I can assure you. So good luck with that. As usual, any problems, please give me a shout. As I stated at the start there, this is from Scots Guards Volume 1, but we will also produce our own music for it, just to make sure everyone can get access to it. So, good luck with that. If you're not in Shore Alba Pipe Band, I hope it's been of use to you as well. Thank you.